So we'll start up with the frameworks now. Now, first, let us understand why do we have frameworks, right? And what exactly is the reason why we got so many frameworks in market now, right? So the basic thing is, if you have a technology, right, you can actually develop any sort of product. But once you develop the product, right, and deliver to anyone, right, so that will not be the end actually, right? So there will be so many maintenance terms, right? And again, redevelopment of something, right? And there'll be upgrades of something. There'll so many things will be going on in market for each client. And what happens is, like, if you don't follow some pattern, right, and if you just scatter your application and if you just give it to a client, right, then it's going to be so costly that the maintenance will be uh, you know will be so costly, first thing, right? So no client will actually will like to take that product into his business, right? So that is a point when it came up that in order to make it more flexible in performance based, right, and in order to make it more maintainable, right, and in order to make it centralized, uh, centralized maintenance, right. So we got some patents called MVC patent. So very successful patent, which is MVC patent, right. Now this is called as your model view controller patent. Now model in this pattern is nothing but the one which contains all the business logics, everything. View is something so which is a end user interface which will actually show the result to the user. And controller is something which is capable of communicating between model and view and vice versa, or to the only model or to only view, right? So whenever user sends a request, right, only one component will be getting request, which is controller. Now previously what we have seen is when we actually develop servlets and JSPs, right? If you have a servlet as a startup servlet, right? If you just run your servlet, what happens? Your servlet will be the one who will be receiving your request. And if you run on JSP, what used to happen here? JSP used to be the startup, right? But here, there you can see that there are multiple files, right? Who are acting as the one who is taking up the request, right? So with that, what happens? Nothing will be centralized as such, right? So here we'll see what exactly we can do in our controller part. There will be one controller which will be sending and receiving the request and responses, right? So that is what is a MVC model. Let me just give you one small example of that, so that you can just keep this remember in your for your future things. Now this is something which is a standard example. Even you will find this in so many videos too, but this is the one which actually I have learned basically. Let me share with you. Now, just a small use case of a small hotel, let's say, or motel or restaurant, right? So there is a restaurant, right? There is a restaurant, let's say, right? And there was one owner, right, who used to take care of everything. Like he used to prepare food, he used to serve food, and he used to you know take the order, everything. So whenever customer comes up, right? So whenever customer comes up, so the owner used to go to customer take the request, get back to the kitchen. Let us say this is his kitchen. Prepare the food and go back again and serve the food. So this was a model which this person was taking up, right? And then number of customers started growing, right? Which means his food was good, and what happened? He actually got number of customers or more number of customers. So as number of customers got increased, right, it became very tough to this owner to take order from each and every person, go back to kitchen, prepare food for so many persons, and get back in. So for that reason, what he did was he actually hired a cook who is capable of actually cooking food as good as him. One cook. So there are two guys here. Yeah, one cook. Now what happened here? Now cook used to do the take care of cooking part. Now what happened? So owner used to go, take the request, get back, give the transfer the request or order to cook. Cook used to prepare meal, and when cook used to give meal to owner, right? So what he used to do, he used to just arrange the meal in a plate, get back to the customer and serve. Now this was the second model he just found, where he just came up with one good idea that okay, if I have someone who is actually preparing the product, right, I can just work to arrange things in a proper manner and serve it to customers. So that is the model he found. Now again, as restaurant was going good, right, so again number of customers started coming up more. Now what happens? So he found it again difficult. Like, if there are so many customers, he has to go to each and every guy, get the request. The first thing what he has to do is, first thing, get the request, right? Because get the order as I said. You have to get the order from each and every person. And second, he has to actually go back, request this cook to prepare the food for all. Right? He used to be a good cook, and he used to prepare food in very quick manner, let us say, right? So he used to prepare food and give that. Now again, what owner have to do? He have to arrange food for all the people, and after arranging all, he have to again go back to the customers and serve. Right? Again, what happened? He just felt that okay, this is not working. So for that reason, what he did, he hired one more guy for arranging the food, for making food in a good manner, for arranging food, right? So arranging food in the sense, this guy used to be in this place. Now what owner used to do is, he used to take the request, transfer the request to cook. Now cook will used to prepare the food, give it back to the new person who is hired for arranging everything. Now once the arrangement is done, owner used to supply it to customers. Now one step ahead. What is happening here? Now owner is the one who is taking requests, transferring it to the cook. Cook is preparing food and giving it back to the person who is arranging it. Right? He is arranging it. And once he arranges, then owner is getting back whatever he has arranged in a plate, he is taking back to customers. Now one step ahead. Now what is happening now? So as a number of customers are growing, owner is taking care of only one thing, that okay, taking the request and giving the request or order to cook. That's it. He is doing only that part, right? And internally, what are the things which got you know in a line? Food is being prepared by cook, right? And the particular order is being arranged in a plate in a beautiful manner by one bearer, and that used to be served by again served back to customer again by owner. So that model is just formed. Now you can see, right? Let me just compare the same model with our technology, right? So when there was a single owner, right, which means we have a single component, it can be servlet. Let's take an example of servlet, right? So what happened there? So whenever there is a request, right, what happens? It will create a thread. It will actually, let us say, it is interacting with DB. It has to interact with DB, get the response, process the response, in the sense it has to arrange it in some HTML manner and give it back to the user. Right? So as number of requests increases, right, what happens? There is only one servlet. What happens? It will actually have to get the complete request, process each and everything, and get back to the user. So as number of requests increases, right, then the application will become heavy, right? Now, for that reason, what happened here? That was the first step called servlet, right? So as number of requests are increasing, right, so servlet itself cannot do database processing and all. So for that reason, or servlet or JSP, anything, or JSP cannot do the complete processing. For that reason, what happened is a separate class got created, which can be a business class, or basically, let us say, bean class, where whenever request comes here, right, what happens? You can just pass on the request to the bean, any method, and this bean method will be actually doing the business thing, which is accessing the database and passing the results and all. And results used to get back to the same servlet, let us say, to the same servlet or same class, and from here it used to go back. Now again, as number of requests increases, so this was a servlet, let us say, right? This was a servlet. Now what used to happen? So it used to interact with some other class where it used to process everything, get back again. It has to arrange everything. Arranging in the sense it has to convert this data into some good HTML form and give it back. Right? So that what it used to happen. Now as number of requests were increasing, what it did? So we used one internal component called either JSP or HTML. Now what is going on here? When a request comes to servlet, we are actually giving from servlet. Servlet gives request to bean. Bean will process everything, give it back to servlet, and servlet is just redirecting the response to some JSP. So what happens here? The response, it will just show so servlet will just give the response to JSP or HTML, and HTML and JSP will take care of arranging things. Arranging in the sense putting all the controls and everything in a good manner, and JSP will be served back to the user. So that is what is happening. Now you can see that if you have understood this model, right? Now in this case, your restaurant owner is a controller, because owner is just think owner as a servlet, right? Which means he is taking care of accepting the requests, which means whenever, if you just compare the same thing with our internet server technology. Now whenever anyone tries to access our website, so that is a request. Now here owner is taking care of getting the request, passing it on to the cook. Now cook is the one who is actually doing the process of cooking, which is a main thing, which means, so cook here is a model, right? Who is taking care of actually doing the business logic, right? What is he doing? He is actually preparing food, which means we can actually think this as a bean class or some class where controller can pass request to the cook. Now whenever he is done with preparation and everything, he is giving back to controller again, like cook. And cook, what he is doing, he is giving that food directly to the one who is capable of arranging things, which means this guy is a V, which is a view, because he is capable of, he is fast enough to arrange food in very quick manner. That is your V, which is can be your JSPs or HTML files, which are capable of arranging things or drawing the complete thing in very quick manner. So that pattern was successful, and you can see that there is only one person who will be interacting with customers, will be only owner, and remaining people who are here hired will work as a model and a view. That pattern is called as your model view controller, where there will be only one controller which will be taking care of receiving and sending requests and responses to the customers or to the clients. So this pattern is called as the MVC pattern, where we just compare it with controller can be one servlet. Let us say servlet is continuously getting the request. As soon as it gets a request, let us say it is sending the request for processing to model. Let us say some class. Let us say it's a bean class. So bean, once it is done, let us say it is giving back the result, right? And what controller is doing? Controller is passing the result to some view, which is a JSP, let us say. Right? Now it is passing it to view, which is JSP. Now this is capable of arranging, which is it is capable of formulating each and every control or data, where to place, where to create a table, everything. Right? Now once view is done, view will give back the whole to controller, and controller is the one from where the end page will be served to the client. Right? Now here there are so many advantages here that there is only one component which is taking the request and sending back the request. We don't have 10 different components to take the request and send it, which is more centralized way of creating a product, right? So tomorrow if you want to do something on request or you want to send back something on response, you just have to touch only one component, which is a control. You don't have to touch other components as such, right? Now in the same way, if you want to write any logic, right, you don't have to rely on direct controllers, which are classes, or it can be anything. You can just create as many models you want, and you can actually send the response, right? You can actually send that to so many models as such. Send the request to process, and whenever it gets back the actual end good, right, finished good. Now this will actually send it to JSP without taking overhead of arranging things. It will give it to JSP, and JSP or HTML or any resource, right, capable of actually formulating the controls will create a good view, and this will be given back to controller, and controller will serve the process. So this pattern is called as an MVC pattern, right, where we can see that we just started with one component. Right? So whatever we were working on is something which is, so that is about your MVC pattern to be more clear as such, right? So that is where whenever we talk about MVC, right? So three components, which is model, right, should be the one which should be taking care of all the business logics and all, right? Business logics main, right? And if you are talking about view, so this should take care of presentation layer, presentations, right, as such. And the one which is controller, right, is the one which is capable of communicating with model and view, right? So it can be in this way. So whenever we get any, let us say, request, so let us say this is a controller, right? So whenever you get any request, let us say, right, so what happens? Controller will pass on the request to, let us say, one of the model, right? One of the model which is capable of actually doing the parsing of the business logics. And once it is done, it will give the output back to controller again. And controller will actually pass the same thing to view, which is capable of, right, which is capable of presenting the end result which he is getting from model. So this is what happens. Sometimes even model and view will be interacting directly, but that interaction should be communicated to your controller. So whenever view model want to interact that with the view, right? So this path will also be controlled from here directly. Yes, you can have a direct interaction here. I'll show you where exactly we'll be doing this part when actually we enter into the patterns, right? And what happens here, it will actually directly give back to view, and view will be served directly to the clients. So that can be also done. But each and every flow, whatever is happening across this complete uh, pattern, right, will be intimated to control. So without having controller's knowledge, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. It can be processing of data, it can be anything. So everything will happen through controller itself. Right? So that is what is all about your MVC, how it works in market and all, right? And this MVC pattern is same across everything, right? It can be .NET, it can be anything. MVC pattern is something which is capable of supporting this model, a centralized controller model, right? Whatever can be support, right, is nothing but a MVC model. And obviously, if it is compatible with some technologies, if you are creating any MVC product, right, so if it is compatible with any technology or any platform where we actually develop, like Java, .NET, PHP, anything, right, you can actually embed this product to that, right? Now that is how some of the product got evolved. Like the first product which we are going to talk about is the Struts, right? Struts is the one who was, it was not a complete component of Java. Even now it is not a complete component of Java. Strut is something which is being developed by a person called Craig. Right? The Craig was the one. The complete name is Craig McKinnon, right? So he is the one who actually developed this complete MVC model called Struts, right? And he actually donated this product after developing and after getting approval from people, right? He donated the complete product to Apache Foundation. It was during 2000 when the Struts actually got into market, right? And till date, the latest version of Struts going on is 2.3.3, right? So one of the model which is very successful model in market is Struts. So basically we have different versions of Struts which was actually released on 2001 into market. So this was a year when it actually got into market. the first release, right, which was 1.0, right? So this was the year when it actually got into market. And till date, which is on 2012, right, the latest version got released into market is 2.3.3. So from this release, they started calling it as Struts 2, which is the latest one is in market. And we are going to learn Struts 2, right? Now that is what we are going to learn. Now basically, what Struts 2 is, Struts 2 is all about your web work plus Struts 1. Because Struts 1 used to work, I mean this one, the first one, its name is Struts 1. Basically what it used to do is, it used to actually provide the controller part, right, and not something which it can handle the web traffic. But in the latest one, which is Struts 2, right, it is capable of handling both the traffic, work as a controller, and also can handle the complete controller part. So that is what is the beauty of Struts 2. We will see how exactly this works and all. Right now, even this Struts, right, Struts 2 provides the POJO model, which we call as a plain old Java model. Right, it's a POJO. We basically call it as, as we are talking about third-party components right now. So we have to be sure that it should not make our product as platform dependent. Never. If any framework is making your product platform dependent, you should not go for that, right? So this Struts 2 is completely written on Java, right? Completely written on Java, and obviously, if it is written on Java, obviously you can take up it directly, and you can use it in your applications, right? So that's why it supports complete POJO. POJO is nothing but plain. It is your plain old Java object, rather, right? So that's our main. Now, how the Struts, provides us an MVC model is something which you are going to learn in complete Struts. That's it, nothing else. Because again, Struts is something, right, which is used to develop an web application again, but in some other patterns. We use servlets, JSPs, some classes, and everything to develop web application, right? So even using that, we can actually create our own MVC. But how it is different from that, we are going to learn that part, right? Not only in this, even if you go to Springs, we'll see why exactly the Springs is in place, or Hibernate is in place, and why do we need that actually, instead of having so many things already existing in the Java, right? Because these frameworks are something, right, which basically we can say in very honestly that they are going to save so much of time in development, right? Uh, so much of time in the sense like you don't have to exclusively prepare your controller. You don't have to exclusively prepare your model. You don't have to exclusively create a connection between your controller and model, right? So if you are using Struts, it will have a intelligence that, okay, whenever it gets request, what is the best model to transfer it on? What is the best view to transfer it on? Everything will be written on one file called controller. Everything. So that support is our Struts is going to give that support, right? So we'll see how actually it gives us support or not. Fine. Now that is a model which we are talking about, which is MVC. So to be just give the high level view, whatever we have learned, like, so it is like, if you take a broad picture, let us say now your controller. So now I'm just comparing with our uh, web applications, what we used to do, right? Let us say this is your controller, right, and this is your model, and this is your view, right? Now this can be JSPs in case of a Java, and this model can be business services, business service in the sense, or business classes, or rather beans, and controller is servlets. So this is a basic thing which we can develop without using any framework, right? MVC pattern with the one which we used to do. So whenever client gives a request, so this will actually interact with things here and give the response back to. So this is your MVC model which we have, right? So now you can see that, if there are more requests, as the request increases, right, then even this model will become heavy, right? That is the reason why we have frameworks. Now how can we build a framework out of this is like this. Now let me just just enhance this picture. Let us draw again a box. So in this, so in controller part, right? In controller part, so there are two different boxes or two different layers from where you can handle your request, right? Now first one is to handle the request or input params, and second is you can use a config file to route the routing config, let us say, routing config, right? Now once a request is, you are getting a request from server, which is Tomcat server, it will actually get the inputs. With respect to inputs, it will actually route. The routing thing will be written on a plain XML, and this will be sent to your model as such. Model which will be talking to different classes or different Java classes. And once the communication is back to this, it will go to view, right, which is capable of talking to different JSPs. Just an upgrade of the last diagram. So previously we thought, okay, there will be some JSPs directly, right? Instead of that, we are just taking this component as a routing component to different JSPs. Right? Now, as there are more number of requests, it is getting the parameters, this layer. This is capable of reading or redirecting. So whatever is redirected, right, instead of one model doing the complete task, this model is sharing it based on the business. It is actually sharing the task to different business objects or business services. Now this is getting back again, and this is routed back to your view. We will actually generate a page with this data and give it back to the same Sturts XML which is capable of Sturts. Now in between this model, right, MVC, whatever we're talking about, and this client, right, whoever is sending the data, right, there will be one thing called server. This is again important, which is Tomcat, let us say. We're just taking an example of Tomcat. So until unless you have this, it won't work. This is mandatory anyways. So whatever is bypassing, it is going through Tomcat and from Tomcat to the conflicts. This is what is a model of frameworks which you can develop. Now, let us compare the same thing how we have in Sturts. So in Sturts, how it is providing support in this layer is, so this params part is being handled. So this layer in Sturts is called as intersectors. Very important. It is called as intersectors, which is an inbuilt API of Struts, or you can also develop your own interceptor using Struts, which is capable of getting the request and transferring automatically back to your XML. Now this XML is a main ingredient of your struts, and this XML is called as your struts XML. We do everything in struts XML only, which is capable of getting the request and routing. Don't worry about how it is getting and all, because once you set up your application or website with your strut XML, right? And if you connect it back to your strut APIs or strut charts, automatically you'll get a layer of interceptors. Now, how we are getting this? If you remember the filters, right? So, what do we used to do filters in servlets part or JSPs? So, if you just give any filter and if you tag it to servlet, right? So, whoever calls the servlet, first it will be redirected to filter first, and from filter, if everything goes fine, it will come back to servlet. Same way here, whenever any request is triggering, it will actually go to interceptor or to XML. It is redirected to interceptor, right, where you can actually perform some task, and if everything goes fine, then give it back to the struts. Now these layers are very powerful controllers we have in struts, right? You can do even the security things. You can create your own firewall, right? Everything in here. But yes, the basic firewalls and basic phishing of all the requests will be done directly in a inbuilt interceptors of your struts. That is true. And in model, in struts, you have something called action classes. So action class is something which is a model in struts. Now action class is same as, I would say the same as your beans. So whatever we used to do in bean, we will be doing the same thing in our action class. But yes, some better things can be handled in our action class. That is your model. And view, it's the same in JSP. Right? Where, so whatever we are actually splitting up is in a JSP, you can have multiple tags, right? Tag lib, if you remember, we said we'll be learning tag library in struts. We are going to see it here. How we can actually access all the tags of struts in JSP or action classes in JSP directly, right? Because there is no, you can see that there is no direct connection between this. But yes, I said you can actually transfer data, whatever you have in action class to view, but it can be done only through XML, which is start XML. So for that connection, we will be using your tag library, right, for that, which is a directive. If you remember tag library, which is @ you have %, we have seen directive, we have seen include directive, but we have to see tag lib. The tag lib thing we will be checking out over here, right? So this is a complete model of MVC which is there in your struts too, right? So which is used basically to design a complete web application model for your website, right? So that is about MVC pattern, how it is being implemented in struts 2. Now we are going to learn the latest one called 2.3.3 struts. Right? Now basically if you want to give now this is your struts 2, this is your main mother site of complete struts. Whatever you want to download, you can actually download from directly here. Anyways, it's 2.3 which you are going to learn, as said, and the subversion can be anything. Now you can see that the struts, the latest one is 15 as such, right? Now this is what we are going to actually learn, which is struts 2. Under struts 2, we are going to learn this 15th version of struts as such, which is 2.3.15. Now this site is something which uh, gives you some complete documentation part. It's a very good site, as we have for Android some site like developer Android site. So this site is something which will give this have got every answer for your every question. That is how I can just say, right? So the first step what we are going to do here is, so let me just ping you this. You can just keep this link. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to download this Start APIs, right? Now click on this 2000, 212315. Click on that, right? And go to full releases as such, right? And just download. If you want to go for latest one, which is this one is the latest, right? You can just go for full distribution and click on that, right? So try to keep this ready, because we are going to set up our Eclipse, right, with this, which is our Struts, right? So we'll go back to advanced Java. We'll see how we can actually set up, and we'll first write a simple struct example, right? And we'll see how this is going to work. Right? So this is all about the main